Sorry, we have a bit of a lisp right now because we just
That's
got the
fine.
braces.
No worries. All right, welcome everybody to the Brazilian Dragon podcast for another edition of Media Made Me. Today I am joined by the lovely Deja and Di-V. I am Felipe, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you all. So Deja and Di-V, one of you can introduce you.
Hi, so we're Deja and Di-V. We have been content creators for a decade now since we were sophomores in high school. We're currently still in school. We're studying public relations and film, and just right now trying to do our best to get started in the entertainment industry, just like a lot of other people who's interested in that. So yeah, that's what a little bit about us.
Yes, and if you don't know, they are twins. They were born 45 minutes apart. If you need help, Deja is the one in blue if you're watching the video, and Divey's the one with the nose ring. Unless I messed it up. What if they were like, "Oh no, actually you're wrong. You don't
You
know us
got it
well
right.
enough."
You got it right.
But yeah, so I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is like how your identity as twins are cultivated via like the media you watch, but also like how you branch off from your twin as an individual, for example. And like that's something super exciting about this particular conversation is you grew up together, you do a lot of things together. Right now we work at the same job, and it's just super cool because you are two different individuals, but you are very much alike because I mean you share a lot of the same DNA, for example. And like you were telling the story a couple of days ago about how you felt a very strong sense of twin telepathy in a specific moment that you had together, even when you were in different rooms, which I think is super cool. But starting from the earliest, like, what do you remember, like some of your earliest memories with like media being, and were there any shows that your sister didn't like as much as you? Like, is there any particular things that you watched that was like, oh no, this was more of a Di-V show versus this is more of a Deja movie?
I would say our first like experience with media that made a huge impact on us, because of course we've had experience with media before, but this would be the one that made a huge impact, would be Mary Kate and Ashley, the Olsen twins. Watching them on Full House, but then Full House, but then watching them later on with the movies that they would make, especially like our dad would take us to Video Vision and we'd get VHS tapes all the time of all of the Mary Kate and Ashley movies, and we just watched them on repeat. Like they had the biggest impact on us and we wanted to be like them so bad. We were like, how cool is that to work with your best friend and you get to do some really fun and amazing things like acting and then singing and just doing all of this crazy stuff. Like we just thought to ourselves, that is so cool. Of course, we didn't think to ourselves like that. Obviously, being a child actor isn't the most fun, but to us, we just thought to ourselves like, hey, that seems like a cool thing to do. Working with your best friend.
Yeah.
How much better could it get?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Mary Kate and Ashley movie or like project besides Full House?
I would say Switching Goals. That was
one of our favorites.
And then, of course, New York Minute. Every single time that we would go to the Video Vision to get their VHS tapes, our parents would give us like, I forgot how much it was to rent the movie, but we could only rent one at a time. So every week we went there, it was only one movie at a time. And we would get other movies sometimes, but we would like always be sticking to the Mary Kate and Ashley movies for the most part. And Switching Goals, we rented out of all of them the most. So we would just rent it out. Like some weeks we'd be like, we just want to keep this one. So like we'd go back and then just rent it out again. So
yeah.
I remember the people at that Video Vision knew us so much.
Yeah.
Did either of you relate to, like, can you tell which twin is which? I'm sure you can when they're acting.
Yeah.
If they were in the same role. Not like if they were doing the twin movies, but if they were like Michelle in Full House.
When they were in Full House, I think it was a little bit harder to tell when they were younger, just because they did look so much alike when they were younger, which is weird because they're fraternal twins. But we know a lot of twins who are also fraternal who look just alike, but they
are complete opposites when you actually get to know them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when they were in their kind of roles where they're playing one person, it's a lot harder to tell. We even get Dylan and Cole mixed up when they were younger in the movie, like with Adam Sandler and things like that. So, but it's easier to tell when you get older. Your face structures start to shape a little bit more, and you can tell there's normally certain differences between the older twin and younger twin that's very obvious. So.
Yeah, and then in terms of their movies that they did, like where they were both playing a character, did one of you relate to more of Mary Kate and the other Ashley, or did you both relate to the same one?
Yeah. When we were younger, I feel like both of us really wanted to relate more to Mary Kate's characters because she was more of the tomboy. And we were both very tomboy when we were growing up. We did not want to be Ashley because she was so like girly. But then as we got older, I would definitely say Di-V's more Ashley and I'm more Mary Kate.
Or at least the roles that they were playing, we would relate more to those ones in particular for sure. And even with Tia and Tamara Mowry as well, like once we got older and we watched Sister Sister and we started singing that and everything, we even started relating to them too, to where both Tia and Tamara and Mary Kate and Ashley had a huge impact on us. Mary Kate and Ashley first for sure, but then Tia and Tamara came in later to where we were just obsessed so much. And I remember we watched Twitches and
I love Twitches. Twitches too.
And I always was the girlier one. I was always a girlier one. Later on, like I was still pretty tomboy up until high school, but there was still some things about me that was a little more girlier than Deja. So even in Twitches, I was always the girlier one, and Deja was more of the tomboy.
Yeah, and I feel like it was a positive thing, obviously, that like we had these twins to look up to. I feel like because of the fact though that there is a lot of stereotypes around twins. I feel like because we watched so many twins on screen, it's always portrayed as one or the other, like very two ends of the spectrum, that we kind of felt like we had to then fit that as well because we're twins too. And so you have everyone coming up to you randomly, who's the evil twin, who's a nice twin, oh, who's the girly one, who's a tomboy one. So I feel like because of that, that's a little bit about how media kind of shaped, you know.
Are there any big like twin stereotypes that you want to break down right now that like were frustrating or super cool to like get to play around with, like either end of the spectrum?
Twin stereotypes. I guess something that not in our case. In our case, it wouldn't be this way, but one of the things that most people think is that all twins are pretty much like close with each other. And we are, but not all twins are. We've been friends with so many twins in our life. We still have a ton of twins friends. And so far, we're the closest set of twins that we know ever. Like a majority of them don't like hugging each other, or they just prefer to have their separate rooms and their separate ways of living their life, even if they are identical. And we find it so weird because we're so close. And it's not to say that anything shaped us to be close. We just grew up very close together. But I would say that would be one of them, is that not all twins are that close. A majority of them are pretty much like two separate people. And I think that it also comes into play with how people treat us as well, as they do see us as one person instead of seeing us as two separate people. They just see us as the same person. And in some situations, I don't mind, you know, like if we're going in on something and we have to pay, I prefer for people to see us as one person in that situation so that we don't have to pay twice. But if it's in a situation where it's completely different, then I don't like that. Like even our family members, they kind of grouped us together all the time. And it was a bit annoying because we are two individuals. And of course we are very close, you know, but it's just gets a little hard when people only see you as one person the entire time. They're like, oh, where's your twin at? Every single time we're somewhere and someone doesn't see one of the other ones, they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're so-and-so. That's kind of strange. And it's like, of course, you're going to wonder, where is my twin? But I don't know. She's living her life. She's doing, you know, what she wants to do because we're two separate people.
No, for sure. And I definitely can sense that it can be frustrating when like if Di-V is like, I think I've been part of the problem at times. Like I remember one time Deja was sick. And then I was like, Divey, where's Deja? And then she was like, oh, she's sick, so it's just gonna be me for a week.
Yeah.
And then there was like also this other event, Jeremy's birthday party. I was like, oh, your sister didn't come? And she's like, no, she had other plans. And I was like, oh yeah. But that said, I do also think like in terms of the friend group that we share, it's easier to like just kind of have you as a package deal because you do live so far away. So it's like we're not going to invite just Deja and not Divey, or just Divey and not Deja. We're going to have them both here, and then they can like kind of, if it's like a party thing, they can like kind of spread out or hang out together. They can do that. But I like hanging out with both of you. It's just sometimes it's hard because you live so far away.
Yeah. And in our situation, I do think that. But when it's like people near us and everything, like close to home, then it's like, oh yeah, Deja's just, she's doing her thing, or oh, Divey's just doing her thing. You know, we don't always have to be together. But in that situation, yes, because it's too far for us to drive out there separately, you know, or do anything separately out in LA. That's a lot of driving, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And then in terms of like, was there ever a point growing up that you felt like your interests in different media, and this generally I speak about movies and TV, but like this can be music, this can be books. Is there ever a point that you felt like your interests like very much diverged, like, and it was noticeable, like whether it was like Deja was really into this one thing where Divey was like, I don't really like this show or whatever. Like, are there any examples where you have noticed that?
Yeah, I feel like it's more recently now that we're I feel like maybe there was a shift maybe when we turned like 21 or so, because a lot of stuff just started happening. We started dating for the first time. We started kind of making friends with other people, which we always normally have the same friend group. Just a lot of stuff started happening where I feel like we started creating our own identities and finding ourselves. So I feel like our media also changed a bit. I really started liking like Bridgerton and Ginny and Georgia, and all these other different type of TV shows, the Mindy Project. And I would try and get Divey to watch it with me because I know she'd like it, but she was just like, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to see that. So yeah, I feel like now that we're growing up, we're creating more of a sense of our own identities. We're definitely like showing different interests in things, which is totally fine. It's a good thing. But it's a little bit to get used to. So
for sure. Yeah. And Divey, are there any shows or movies that you're trying to get Deja to watch that she refuses?
I don't think so. I hardly ever show her any new stuff. She's more of the one always trying to get me to watch something. And then I stick to just the same old stuff over and over again on repeat. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I ever really try to get Deja into anything. It's more her trying to convince me to watch all of the new like Mindy shows, right?
Yeah,
most of them really are Mindy shows.
The Lives of College Girls, you know.
Oh yeah, and she did get me into that. She did get me into that. I sat there and I watched a couple of episodes, and I was like, you know what? This is actually really good. And so I sat and I watched. And I'm pretty sure I would like all of those shows that she has mentioned that I haven't watched. But I just don't have the energy to exert watching something new right now to where I'm like, I'm okay, I'm good. Even with the Gossip Girl reboot, you're watching that too.
Yeah, I was watching the reboot.
I just was like, I'm okay. And even Gossip Girl in general, she was watching that to try getting me into that. I was not.
Listen, Deja, we can talk about Gossip Girl like we did the other day. So I'll be your Divey for that.
Thank you.
So it sounds like Deja kind of unwinds by watching media and watching TV shows. How do you unwind, Divey?
Sleeping.
Relatable.
I sleep a lot, and then also I like to play my video games. Okay. And I have my keyboard, so occasionally I'll practice a new song on there. So I would say that's how I tend to unwind a lot, is sleeping, video games, or learning a new song and trying to challenge myself.
And then Deja, is there anything else that you do to unwind besides TV? Do you also play video games and keyboard or no?
I play video games, but I don't think I'm as talented musically as Divey is. So she has that. I feel like for me, hobby-wise, I like to do some art sometimes. And then also sometimes I just really like doing research on like certain topics that I really like in Hollywood.
Like Wikipedia rabbit holes?
Yeah, like whether it be like business side stuff, what's happening in Hollywood, researching, what's going on. So I feel like that's more of my speed.
Nice. In terms of like what kind of media you grew up watching besides like twin content, I know you auditioned for High School Musical, the musical, the series. Were you? I know we personally like have chatted Disney Channel original movies, but like what kind of shows and movies besides like the twin related ones were you like super drawn to growing up? And did you have any like super standouts that like you kind of like you had for switching goals, like any ones that like you remember watching on repeat all the time?
Horror is our main genre.
Yeah.
We love horror, but keeping it more lighthearted. A horror-ish movie that we really liked on Disney Channel that made a huge impact on us was Don't Look Under the Bed. That was our favorite. We would watch that so much. And the first time we've ever seen it, honestly, it was like a fever dream. It's like it didn't even exist after a while because we were like, what was that movie? We kept trying to remember, like, hey, what was that movie that we watched when we were younger? It was like the Boogeyman. We were trying to refresh each other's memories one day. And I believe it was like high school. And we were like trying to figure it out, and we finally looked it up online and we found the movie. We're like, that's it. Don't Look Under the Bed. And we watched it on repeat. We love that.
That must be so helpful to have like someone who you watched it with.
Yeah,
Like, because if I'm always struggling to remember something, I'm like, oh, I have to like figure it out. But like, at least you have someone else to check in with first before you have to go research.
Yeah, and that really helps us. Another one, Spirited Away. So Hayao Miyazaki's films. I feel like we got really into more of animation type of style. Especially when we were camping all the time with our family when we were younger. We would go to the campgrounds and there would be that cabin where all the kids hung out with the camp counselors. And that's when we first watched Spirited Away. We started getting more into anime like Bleach and Inuyasha and things like that. So definitely those are some standouts.
And then in terms of like the big movies of today, like are there any, like I know you mentioned horror, are there any standouts in the horror franchises or even like one-offs or like any other franchises that you really enjoy watching? And like, do you think that any of them has shaped like your passion for creativity? Not even just that, but also like even like parts of your personality?
The Final Destination films. We really love those. We love the Final Destination films. It's a simple whole premise for the film. It's very simple. It's easy to follow, but also just how creative they can get with the kills can be very interesting as well. And I just Final Destination 3, I believe, is our favorite. It's the one with the roller coaster death scene. That is by far the best. I love that movie so much. That one shaped us so much growing up. We used to watch it all the time. And a lot of horror movies all the time, just on repeat. Our parents thought we were weirdos because it was like, why are you watching this right before bed? But we were perfectly fine. We just loved watching horror movies.
And I think something that really made us like a lot of the horror movies is the use of practical effects and how they were able to create a lot of these scenes without a lot of visual effects and things like that. I thought it was so cool, especially the roller coaster scene. And then also just in a lot of movies like Smile, even how they were able to create some of those things were amazing. The Last of Us, if you look at like the behind the scenes and how they're creating those practical effects with people, it's so cool. And I love it. So I think those are some of the ones that definitely in recent years have kind of stuck with us.
No, for sure. Also, you mentioned practical effects and Halloween. You by far threw the best Halloween party I've ever been to, and you did some practical effects, like with the fog machine, with the scarecrows. Like you put a lot into your parties. Like if you have the pleasure of ever getting to go to a Deja Di-V party, I highly recommend, because they show up with the catering, with the drinks, and they put a ton of effort into the decoration and the vibe, and they set the mood. And like for Halloween and then your birthday party, I remember those were two of my favorite parties that I've ever been to. You have like such a cool, like you create the environment well. And like, if you ever got into party planning, I'd be like, hell yeah.
Maybe we will do party planning. I'm so particular when it comes to parties in general.
Yeah.
I like for everyone to have a good time.
Yeah.
And we're kids at heart, you know, so we love for there to be just fun things to do. We don't want it to just be a party where everyone stands around, listens to music, and that's it, you know. Like, I prefer for there to be games for people to play and things for people to do, but also in ways where you can socialize, but also feel comfortable. Like, if you don't want to socialize, you don't want to go talk to everyone, I want you to be able to be by yourself. Some people don't want to go out and socialize. They want to be at a party, but sit by the wall the whole time, and that's perfectly fine. But I also want them to feel comfortable in doing that and not like they should be out and socializing with people. Like, if you're comfortable doing what you want to do, be comfortable doing that. And I don't want anyone to force you to be social if you don't want to be social. I just want everyone to feel comfortable, have a good time in your own way. Like, that's how I like parties to be. I hate when I
create that environment.
Yeah, I hate when I go to a party and someone is forcing me to do something I don't want to do. It's like, no, I'm very comfortable just sitting here. I just want to sit here. I don't want to get up and I don't want to dance and I don't want to do this. I want to just be sitting here. It doesn't mean I'm having a bad time. It just means that I'm comfortable in this spot right here.
No, and as someone who was the DED for both parties, like after a certain point, I like cut myself off and like for the second party more so. The first party I did like one Jello shot and called it. But I was like, okay, so I'm also someone who like I get more looser with more alcohol in me, and like I'm more of like a dancer or a partier like that. But if I have to be responsible, then sometimes I shut down when it gets late, when I'm tired. So I really appreciated the vibe that you created, because there was like the board game area, and then there was also the beer pong area. So you were very respectful and like inclusive in the way you thought of your party.
And there was also the bouncy house area.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. Now, so you also do your own content, and you've been doing content creation for over 10 years. How did that all start? Was it one of you who came to the other? Was it like you were like a fan? Because I think it's so interesting, because we grew up in the generation where like people were doing YouTube vlogs, and like now a lot of people like have podcasts or Twitch streams or YouTube channels. And I know you were friends beforehand, but one of the ways that you fostered your friendship further with one of our coworkers, Steven, is because he's a Twitch streamer and you would pop in. And you've talked about that with me privately. So like where did the idea to do your own content? What kind of content do you do? Where can people check it out if you want to plug it right now? But like, where did that all come from? And you've mentioned being creative. So like, where did these ideas spawn from?
I would feel like it first started when we were younger. It would be around elementary school, going into middle school. We would, at our aunt's house, she had these little dolls, and we would just put on little play performances with these little dolls for our whole family. Every time it was like Christmas, Thanksgiving, anything like that. And then our parents was like, oh, hey, we should get them a camera, you know, so that they can record this little stuff, and then they could just show it to your family all the time. So our parents got us a camera, and we started recording little videos, and we just show it to our family at first. But then later on in middle school, we got our very first like camera. It was like a Canon like M something. It was just like a digital camera, but it could take videos, take pictures, and it was fairly good quality. It was HD. It was really nice. And we started filming that, and then we came across YouTube. Some of the first YouTubers that we ever watched were Shane Dawson, Jenna Marbles. We were also watching Hillywood. And Hillywood at the time as well, and like parody videos too. And we got super inspired by specifically Shane. We like the fact that he did so many skits on his own, like without a bunch of people helping him. He would play all of the characters, and we love that he did that. So we started making just little vlogs and then doing little skits, specifically with our dolls, though. Our dolls would be our main characters. So we were sticking to the doll
really
thing.
into the American Girl doll scene. There was an entire side of YouTube where people were just making videos and stop motion videos specifically with their American Girl dolls. And we got so good at stop motion. And we were just doing that with them and making this.
But we didn't have American Girl dolls, though. We had BFC Ink dolls, because we could not afford American Girl dolls, and our parents were not going to get us American Girl dolls. So we did that for a little bit, and then we stopped making YouTube videos on that specific channel. It's called Twins Production 101. It's not there anymore. We deleted it. But then we got into our sophomore year of high school and we decided, let's start our YouTube channel again because we're older now. We have more resources. And our dad had bought us a whole bunch of studio lights and we just got a brand new camera. It was a Canon Rebel T3i. So we were like, yeah, let's make more videos. So we started making more. And it just kind of took off from there. It was so much fun. We were just doing it for fun. Honestly, it wasn't even because we wanted to do anything with it. We were just like, let's just have fun, make these videos.
Around this time, we got really into Key and Peele. They were on Comedy Central during that time, and we loved their comedy sketches. So we started going really into that. We saw Brooklyn and Bailey, the Merrill twins. We just started seeing a lot more twin YouTubers on YouTube during that time. So that really inspired us, all of them, when we were making our videos. And then before we know it, some of the same people we were inspired by contacted us for the collab channel, Squared. And then after that, the rest is kind of history. We just kept creating content. We kept going. We started working with really reputable brands. And we just had a great time. Unfortunately, now we're not kind of doing social media as much just because we're working, but whenever we can post content just for fun, we're doing it. And then somehow it's going big on TikTok. I don't see how. So yeah.
Do you have like, you mentioned Shane Dawson as like kind of someone who you saw what the content you were doing early on and like you were like, oh, this is really cool. Are there any people these days that you really admire their passion and creativity that like if you could spend more time doing, you would definitely like take some, you would either want to collab with them or like draw inspiration from them?
I would say probably the Merrill twins, and then also there's someone in particular that geez Louise, I can't remember their name. I'll get back to that person in a second. But probably the Merrill twins. I like just their consistency and the fact that they have always stuck to certain values when it comes to their channel. They've always been a family-friendly channel, and they've stuck to that. Even when people on YouTube were doing outrageous things for views, and people even still do that today just to get some sort of likes and views on things. They always stick to their core value of who they are. And I find that really inspirational. They haven't like switched up their content or anything just so that they can follow what's going on now to get more views. You know, they just stick to what they're doing and it's working for them because people like it when you're true to yourself and you're not changing up.
Yeah. And I think also Brooklyn and Bailey, another inspiration. I think for them, they more inspire me when it comes to what they've been able to make from YouTube. They have their own business. They're able already to they're already married and they have their husbands and they're living in their own houses now. They just both bought their homes. And I think it's incredible that they have been doing YouTube for so long. I believe longer than we have, or maybe about the same time.
They've been doing it, I believe, longer than us.
And they've just done so well for themselves.
And another thing I like about Brooklyn and Bailey that really inspired me is the fact they stayed in school. They went to school. They both have their bachelors. And then Brooklyn went off to become an esthetician so that they can create their own skincare line. And I find that super inspiring. Like, that's so cool because when you think about it, like these Brooklyn and Bailey, like they obviously were making a good amount of money on their YouTube channel with their family, and they didn't need to go to school if they didn't want to, which most YouTubers and influencers in general, they don't do. They normally just continue on the YouTube path, but they decided to go to school and continue to get a higher education. And I think that's super inspiring because at the end of the day, like, the internet is so new still. It's extremely new, and especially influencers and the influencer lifestyle. It's super duper new. And so we don't know where this is going to go in 10 years time. And a majority of the older YouTubers that we do see that were on the platform when it just began, we already see with them that they don't have, only a few of them do, but most of them do not have the same platform that they had back then, and they're not making as much money as they used to. And so this lifestyle of this whole influencer thing isn't sustainable unless you're someone who can continue to grow every single year
and
with everyone else.
To connect to different avenues and make a living out of it, or else it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and I like the fact
for
that
a certain amount of time, then it's just going to go away.
With Brooklyn and Bailey, like they have all these different avenues now, to where if YouTube ends up getting deleted tomorrow, it doesn't matter, because they have their skincare line. They also have their mom's hair care line. They have their clothing line as well. They have their mascara as well. They have all these other avenues that they could explore, to where if YouTube deleted tomorrow, they will be perfectly fine. I think it's extremely smart business-wise.
Do you have any favorite videos that you've ever put together? Anything that you remember either like being super excited about when you were creating it, or anything that like translated really well to audiences that you were like surprised by the turnout of that specific video? Are there any like highlights from your content creation?
Definitely on when we were doing the collab channel, we did a video for Valentine's Day week, because that was the theme for that week. It's called The Perfect Couple. Interviewing the perfect couple. Sorry. And it's one of our favorite videos, because out of all the twins on the channel, I felt like we had just the darkest sense of humor. Not inappropriate, but just dark. And I feel like everyone else was very more family friendly, and we were just, ourselves. We were very weird. And that video makes us laugh every single time we watch it. Yeah. Every single time.
I remember in the process of just creating the video too, we were having a great time. It was majority of the whole thing was just improv. It was completely improv. And majority of our skits that I feel like we had the most fun with were the ones that were improv.
We would kind of just do an outline. So this is what's going to happen in the scene. That's what we're kind of planning for. But
do what
everything that we would say was just improvising, So whatever kind of happened just happened. So
yeah, but that would be one of my favorite videos we did on the collab channel. And then on our channel, I would say the remake of Key and Peele's Pizza Order. We really challenged ourselves with the filming in that. Once again, we were sophomores at the time when we made the video, so we really challenged ourselves with the filming aspect of it, and then even with editing, because the majority of our videos that we did, whether it was on the collab channel or whether it's on our main channel, I always did the video editing, and then Deja did more of the channel artwork and the thumbnails, all of that stuff. So that's how we separated our work for each other. I edited videos, she did the artwork, and it worked out that way. And so I had to challenge myself a lot when it came to editing that video, and I loved it. I had a really great time doing it. And then as I continued going with our YouTube stuff, I continued challenging myself with trying out new editing techniques so that I could get better at it. So I really liked it.
Yeah. And I think another video that was really fun was the video that we did for Raven's Home Season 2 with Disney Channel for Deja Di-V YouTube channel, which you can check it out. And then also check us out on TikTok, Deja Di-V. But that one was really fun. That was our first time that we had worked with a really big brand like that. And we love Disney Channel. So we were just super ecstatic. And it was so cool because, they obviously talk to you through email, and we were just kind of getting to see the business side, and you have to sign contracts and everything. And it was just really cool. So that was really awesome. And then seeing the final product of the video, because we had different versions that we'd created, but they ended up going with a version that they edited for us, which was really cool because we got to kind of see all of the kind of artwork that they use. And then we tried to kind of emulate that later on for the rest of our videos, which we really loved that. And it was just really cool. That experience was amazing. And we were really grateful for being able to do that. And that was all because of through the Squared channel that we got to do that collaboration. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely, I'm going to put your YouTube channel and your TikTok in the show notes so that people can check out what you're doing. Now, I have one more question for you before I wanted to play a game that I came up with for you. And then we'll wind things down. So the question is going to be, how does working with your twin, is obviously it helps because you can differentiate the tasks, and like you said, Di did more of the editing, Deja did more of the artwork, thumbnail stuff. But like, do you face any conflicts when you're doing that, like in a clash of creative visions when you are doing a project together? And then also, like, how does that affect like your personal life when you're trying to separate business and personal? Does that ever cloud anything? Like, I'm assuming just like, because you're siblings, you probably have had fights before.
Yeah.
Like, did anything ever blend in with the business side of your goals? And also, like, at this point, like, what do you want to do long-term creatively with your channel? Once you answer that question, would be something that I also am curious about.
Yeah, so definitely we've had tons of conflict when it comes to who's doing what, creative vision wise. We'll probably, like, sometimes Di-V we'll both be thinking of a video idea and we're like, yes, we have to do this video idea. Meanwhile, while we're preparing for the video, we have two completely different visions for how we want to accomplish that. Yeah. And so when it's time to do the video, maybe we don't talk beforehand and we're like kind of laying out the plan, the outline for it. And she's like, well, I thought we could do this. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I thought it could be more like this. So definitely there's been conflict when it comes to that. Sometimes our visions are different. And then also sometimes like we could feel like, oh, I'm doing a little bit more work than you are and things like that. So kind of the same thing that you would probably get from a normal job aspect when you're working with normal coworkers. And yeah, it's a lot to kind of deal with when you're trying to balance, you know, work and life, work and personal, but we kind of find ways around it.
And I think we just get along so well that we don't let it get to us too much. We're just like, okay, you know, fine, that's how you feel. We'll figure something out later on to fix the issue. But like in this moment, we need to do what we need to do.
And most of the time, what we'll do to kind of solve the solution, solve the problem, we'll go ahead and say, okay, well, I came up with this video idea, so let me do it in the vision in which I really think, you know, that I wanted to. And if you want to add input, then I'll totally take your input to see on how we can make things better if, you know, it's not turning out the way that we want to. So I feel like that's something that we do to kind of solve the conflict. We kind of say, okay, if you came up with this video idea and you already have a vision for it, I want to let you do your vision, and then I'll just add an input, and then we'll see, you know, where it goes from there. In terms of our channels and what we're trying to do now, we just want to create more content surrounded around just being ourselves more, just showing what our daily lives are like, and then also just creating more comedy sketches and kind of just, I don't know, just interacting more with people from around the world and communicating more with people. So that's where we're really going more with our content. And did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it. We definitely want to make things that make us happy, to where it doesn't feel like a job, because of the fact that we had been content creating for such a long time. It got to a point to where it did feel like just a job, and we were just putting out videos to put out a video. And not because we were having fun doing it. And that was a huge issue for us, to where we did take a very long break at one point when we went into college, so that we could just focus on school, but also just kind of relieve ourselves of the burnout that we had.
Burnout is real.
It was a lot. It was just too much. So I want to make content that I feel happy with doing. I want to take breaks when I want to take breaks, because I do think that with the way it was before, and like the work that we had to do and who we were working with at the time, we did have to be so consistent to where there weren't any breaks. And it was a consistent thing of like, hey, you gotta be, you know, this is kind of how it works with the YouTube game and with the content creator stuff. You gotta be consistent, otherwise you aren't going to grow. And it's true, but I do think that it's not healthy, especially if it is starting to make you feel a certain way. It isn't healthy, and you do need to take breaks. And hopefully when you come back from that break, if your audience that you grew is very supportive of you, they'll understand and they will be there for you when you come back from taking whatever break that you need to. But definitely, like, quality over quantity is the thing that we're trying to focus on the most, is just putting out quality content. and not just whipping out videos every single day that is just not it. It's just not the best product. We want to put out something that has good quality and substance to it. So yeah, that's where we are kind of going with the channel and with our
No, and I love what you said, because like as someone who also creates content, it can be burnout, and like just based on where I am from when I started. Like I've been doing this podcast it's gonna hit the 3-year mark next week.
wow.
And I love doing the podcast, but also my life has changed. When I started, I was graduating into a pandemic that I had the time to create an episode every week. But now I'm at the point where I'm so busy with like work and then also trying to do comedy and outside things that I am starting to look at like what are alternative ways to have consistency, and that is by doing a project like this where I know I can bank the episodes, and then once I have all the episodes for the season, I can release them weekly while I work on the next season or work on something else. So that is like, you always have to adapt and you have to take care of yourself, because as much fun as this is, it's still a lot of work, even if you don't consider like it's fun work, but it's still work for a lot of it. Yeah. Now, quickly, I know we are short on time, but I want to just give you a couple of dynamic duos, and you have to figure out who is who. And just like, and if you don't know this fictional universe or like these people, you can always pass. So, Chloe and Hallie.
Ooh, that one's a hard one.
I want to say Hallie.
I knew you were going to say that, but I'd rather be Hallie. I feel like Hallie more than I feel like Chloe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we're both more Hallie. I feel like in terms of how protective they are over one another, I feel like, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like we're both Hallie.
Because I love Chloe and Hallie. I think that they remind me a lot of ourselves. But I think when it comes to their personalities, that we both are Hallie. But the way other people would see us, they would probably say that I'm Chloe and she's Hallie.
Okay.
That's just by the way other people see us, because Hallie
that's also a thing, because you see yourselves differently than how other people see you, but you also know yourselves better than anyone else.
Because Hallie has more of a reserved side to herself, and I feel like that's both of us until you get to know us. However, when me and Deja are together, I feel like I kind of have to be the outgoing, more outspoken version of myself when we are just introducing ourselves to people or in a social situation, because Deja is so reserved, and I don't want anyone to think, oh, the twins hate us, or anything like that. So I do be more outspoken. So I think that from an outside perspective, people would say that I'm Chloe and she's Hallie. So we'll.
All right. Next dynamic duo, Timon and Pumbaa.
I've never seen The Lion King.
Yes, we have.
Deja just whispered she's never seen The Lion King.
No, we have seen. I probably watched it when I was younger.
Yeah, but I haven't watched it.
I don't know anything about the.
Well, we are gonna fix this one day, and do an adult viewing. In terms of Woody and Buzz, you know Toy Story, right?
Yes.
Okay, who's Woody and who's Buzz?
Woody, Buzz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask, we already did Mary Kate and Ashley, but what about who is Wanda and who is Pietro?
Ooh.
Which one of you is going to die in the first movie?
Don't say that.
I'm kidding.
I would say Wanda, Pietro. I guess I could see it.
All right. And then two more. We got Batman and Superman.
This is a hard one. Batman and Superman.
It's okay if you don't have one.
I want to say Batman.
Superman.
Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, SpongeBob and Patrick.
Oh. I love it. SpongeBob, Patrick.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. And you can always the thing is that you could grow in 5 years, you could have completely different answers. And that's something super cool about life and being twins. Now I want to give you the floor to plug whatever you have going on these days and anything else you want to promote. And also on my podcast, I always like to ask people for a pop culture plug, whether it's a song they're listening to, a movie they absolutely want people to check out, a TV show that they're in love with right now. So in addition to what you have going on, each of you get to plug something else.
Okay, cool. So you can check us out on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. Our social media pages is the same as you're going to see here, Deja and Di-V. Di-V's name is DI-V. You can check out our content there. We've got a few stuff that's going to be coming out soon, some videos popping up on there. Remember, quality over quantity. And in terms of plugging something that we're enjoying, Di-V, what do you want to?
A song, What Would I Do by Strawberry Guy.
Cool. All right. For me, I'm going to plug two things.
As you should.
First off, Ginny and Georgia, I just finished the second season, and I know it's really late to barely be finishing it now, but I loved it. So that's definitely something that I want to plug. And then also Niall, his song Meltdown, I believe it's called, is going to be releasing, I believe, tomorrow, the single. So check it out because I've been listening to the little preview on TikTok, and I cannot wait. I can tell that's going to be my song of the summer. So
love it. And hopefully, who knows when this episode will come out? It could be in a month, it could be in 2 months, but hopefully we're all listening to Meltdown at the same time.
Yeah.
In terms of me, just quickly, Brazilian Dragon Podcast on all social media at Brazil Dragon Pod. You can also go to my Linktree, linktra.ee/Brazilian Dragon. You can also like and subscribe on the YouTube channel as they are pointing up here. And then in terms of my main stuff, at with the Felipe on all social media, primarily Instagram, mostly these days. That's where you can keep up with everything I have going on. We got more media made me on the horizon, as well as continuing to do Scooby-Doo and other miscellaneous projects. I know the twins and I have plans to chat about cowbells one point in time. So I'm excited about that. And while you're here, feel free to go drop a little 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps people find the show, find different content that they might be interested in. If they search up Disney Channel podcasts, hopefully with more 5-star reviews, they can find it. So with that said, everyone, thank you so much to the twins for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. And until next time, everyone, obrigadeiro for listening. Bye.
Bye.